Welcome to Headphone News, Greater Vancouver edition for Friday, November 22nd, 2024.
Old Dewdney Trunk Road reopens after multi-vehicle crash. Old Dewdney Trunk Road in British Columbia, Canada, has reopened following a serious crash involving 3 vehicles, a dump truck, an SUV, and a sedan. The incident took place on Thursday morning around 7:30 a.m. One driver was trapped in the sedan and needed to be extracted, receiving life-saving measures before being transported to the hospital. Fortunately, no other injuries were reported among the other drivers. The road was closed for several hours for investigation and cleanup, raising concerns about road safety in the area.
Thatcher Demko's recovery update for Vancouver Canucks. Thatcher Demko, goaltender for the Vancouver Canucks, is making strides in his recovery from a knee injury sustained during last year's playoffs. As of November 21st, 2024, Demko shared positive updates after 213 days of rehabilitation. He fully participated in practice at the University of British Columbia, but is currently the team's 3rd goaltender. The Canucks are gearing up for a 6-game road trip, and while Demko's return to game action remains uncertain, he feels optimistic about his progress. The team is facing challenges with other key players also out, making Demko's potential return vital for boosting team performance and morale.
Canada Post strike and government response. On November 15, 2024, around 55,000 Canada Post workers began a strike after negotiations with the Canadian Union of Postal Workers did not result in a new collective agreement. This strike has stopped mail delivery across Canada. In response, federal and provincial governments are putting contingency plans into action to ensure that important government mail and financial support checks still reach citizens. Most recipients of federal payments receive their funds through direct deposit, which helps reduce the strike's impact. Local offices in provinces like Ontario and Quebec are ready to assist those who need to pick up their payments. This situation underscores the vital role of postal workers in delivering essential services.
BC teen remains critical with avian flu. A teenager from the Fraser Health region of British Columbia, Canada, is in critical condition after testing positive for H5N1 avian flu. The teenager has been hospitalized for almost 2 weeks. Health officials state that the risk of spreading this virus to humans is low, mainly affecting those who work closely with infected birds. The Canadian Food Inspection Agency has identified more cases of avian flu in poultry in Abbotsford and Chilliwack, British Columbia. Authorities assure the public that eating properly cooked poultry or eggs does not pose a health risk. The investigation is ongoing to find out how the teenager contracted the virus.
Pedestrian accident in Surrey, British Columbia. A pedestrian was hit by a driver in Surrey, British Columbia, on Thursday afternoon. The incident took place at the intersection of 105 Avenue and 148th Street. Reports came in before 3 p.m., leading to a response from the Surrey Royal Canadian Mounted Police and paramedics. Traffic in the area slowed as emergency services arrived. Information about the pedestrian's condition and the cause of the accident has not been released. This incident highlights ongoing concerns about pedestrian safety in urban areas.
BC man sentenced for live streaming car incident. A British Columbia man, Jawad Fawaz, has been sentenced to 1 year of probation for driving his car into the ocean while live streaming. The incident took place on March 4th, 2024, at the Rocky Point boat launch in Port Moody. Fawaz was reportedly paid to perform this act during a live stream with popular U.S. streamer Aiden Ross. After the incident, police arrested him for reckless behavior. On November 21st, 2024, a judge in Port Coquitlam ordered Fawaz to pay a $100 fine and nearly 3,000 Canadian dollars in restitution to the city of Port Moody. He must also complete 30 hours of community service. This case highlights important questions about the responsibilities of content creators and the risks associated with live streaming dangerous acts.
Reddit outage affects thousands of users. On November 21, 2024, Reddit faced an outage that affected more than 70,000 users across the United States. The disruption started around 10 a.m. Eastern Time and lasted for about 1 hour. The company indicated that an update was the cause of the issue. After reverting the update, Reddit restored service by 10:51 a.m. This incident came just a day after a separate software bug had already disrupted access for many users. Reliability is essential for social media platforms like Reddit, as outages can lead to user frustration and impact trust.
RCMP body-worn cameras rollout in British Columbia. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police, or RCMP, will start using body-worn cameras in Mission, British Columbia. The initial rollout includes 44 cameras for officers, with plans to expand to other communities like Tofino, Ucluelet, Cranbrook, Kamloops, and Prince George. This initiative aims to improve officer safety and foster trust with the public. Each camera will cost approximately 3,000 Canadian dollars per year. Community leaders, including those from the Heskiyat First Nation and Wet'suwet'en, support this effort, seeing it as a positive step toward better relationships between police and the communities they serve.
Approval of Cariboo Gold Mine in British Columbia. The British Columbia government has approved an operating permit for the Cariboo Gold Mine project by Osisko Development Corporation. Located near the small community of Wells, this mine is expected to process 1.1 million tons of gold-bearing ore each year. The project aims to create over 630 jobs during construction and is projected to bring significant investment, starting with $137 million and an additional $918 million over the mine's lifespan. The population of Wells, currently around 220 residents, could grow to about 1,000 over the next 20 to 30 years due to the mine's development. While some local leaders and First Nations support the project for its economic benefits, there are concerns about environmental impacts and changes to the town's character. Residents fear that the mine will turn Wells into an industrial site. The BC government highlights that the project underwent extensive consultation and is the first to be fully assessed under the new Environmental Assessment Act. However, the Zatzal First Nation has called for a pause on the project until proper consent is granted, citing regulatory concerns. In contrast, the Ultako Dean First Nation supports the project, seeing it as a chance for economic growth. The approval process took 13 months and involved consultations with local communities, First Nations, and regulatory assessments.
Vancouver Police Department proposes budget increase for 2025. The Vancouver Police Department in British Columbia, Canada, has proposed a budget increase for 2025. The department is requesting a total of $434 million, which includes an additional $23 million. Chief Palmer emphasized that this increase is essential to meet the department's financial needs. The proposal also includes funding for body-worn cameras for officers. The Vancouver Police Board has approved the proposal, which will go to the City Council for final approval later this month. Despite a projected $9 million budget overrun this year, crime rates in Vancouver have decreased in 2024.
New case of chronic wasting disease in British Columbia. A new case of chronic wasting disease has been confirmed in British Columbia, Canada, bringing the total to 3 cases of this serious illness affecting deer in the province. The latest infection was detected in a white-tailed deer that was hunted in the Dewdney region. Testing by the Canadian Food Inspection Agency confirmed this case. Chronic wasting disease attacks the brain and is always fatal for deer, elk, moose, and caribou. Health Canada advises against eating meat from infected animals. In response to this threat, the BC government has implemented mandatory testing for deer, elk, and moose in certain areas to help control the spread of the disease.
Burnaby man arrested for harassment. A 20-year-old man from Burnaby, British Columbia, has been arrested for allegedly harassing 2 women. According to the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, the suspect left inappropriate handwritten notes and gifts for the victims on 8 occasions between September 15th and November 3rd. These notes included sexual messages and implied that the suspect was watching the women. After the arrest, the suspect was released with strict conditions, which include no contact with the victims and regular check-ins with a bail supervisor. Police are urging anyone who has faced similar harassment to come forward and share their experiences.
Zepto raises $350 million in funding. On November 22, 2024, Zepto, a grocery delivery startup from Bengaluru, India, announced it has raised $350 million in its latest funding round. This funding maintains the company's valuation at $5 billion. So far in 2024, Zepto has secured over $1.3 billion, highlighting strong consumer demand for quick commerce services. The quick commerce sector in India is projected to reach $6 billion in annual sales this year. Zepto faces competition from other major players like Zomato and Swiggy in this fast-growing market.
Severe weather impacts British Columbia. British Columbia is facing severe weather as cleanup continues from a recent bomb cyclone. A new storm is on the way, bringing high winds and potential damage to areas like Vancouver Island and the Sunshine Coast. Environment and Climate Change Canada has issued a weather statement warning that this storm could hinder recovery efforts after over 300,000 customers lost power. BC Hydro reports that most customers have had their power restored, but around 25,000 are still without electricity. Additionally, a snowfall warning is in effect for the Chilcotin region, with up to 10 centimeters of snow expected.
Vancouver hotel workers secure wage increase. Hotel workers in downtown Vancouver, British Columbia, have won a major victory by signing a new wage agreement. This agreement sets the highest wages for hotel workers in Canada. Beginning in 2025, employees at the Hyatt Regency, Westin Bayshore, and Pinnacle hotels will earn $32.50 Canadian dollars per hour, with wages expected to rise to over $37 Canadian dollars by 2027. This achievement comes after years of protests and difficulties during the COVID-19 pandemic. The agreement also provides enhanced job protections for workers. Union leaders believe this deal will establish a new standard for hotel worker pay across Canada.
That is all the news for today. Thank you for listening to today's Headphone News. News summary brought to you by AI.